Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th Canto, 5th Chapter, Text 38. Sarver Upaya Antavyak Sarver Upaya Antavyak Samboja Shayanashanai Samboja Shayanashanai Soralinga Darak Shatrur Soralinga Darak Shatrur Muner Dushtang Evendriyam Muner Dushtang Evendriyam Sarve Rupaya Hantavyak Samboja Shayanashanai Suralinga Darak Shatrur Muner Dushtam Ivendriyam Sarvai by all Upayai means Hantavyak must be killed Samboja by eating Shayana, lying down, Ashanai, by sitting, Surit Lingadaraha, who has assumed the role of a friend, Shatru, an enemy, Mune, of a great sage, Dushtam, uncontrollable, Eva, like, Indriyam, the senses. Translation: just as uncontrolled senses are the enemies of all yogis engaged in advancing in spiritual life, this Prahlad, who appears to be a friend, is an enemy because I cannot control him. Therefore, this enemy, whether eating, sitting, or sleeping, must be killed by all means. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Hiranyakashipu planned a campaign to kill Prahlad Maharaj. He would kill his son by administering poison to him while he was eating, by making him sit in boiling oil, or by throwing him under the feet of an elephant while he was lying down. Thus Hiranyakashipu decided to kill his innocent child, who was only 5 years old, simply because the boy had become a devotee of the Lord. This is the attitude of non-devotees toward devotees. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshoenalatamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pankum Lankayate Garim Yakripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatanam. So Srila Prabhupada condenses this purport into just a few sentences. It is not at this stage in our devotional life, everyone has some clear understanding of what it means by the uncontrolled senses. Simply by this process, Chaita Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Simply by attempting this process, one's heart is becoming cleansed of all the dirty things which have been accumulated for years. But as Srila Prabhupada so nicely explained, that as one begins to clean something, immediately some dirt flies up in the air. If one is sweeping the room, you have to shut off the fans because the dust is being spread everywhere. So the nature of this dust in relationship to the uncontrolled senses are these all shadow attachments which are lingering very close by. One may think that by chanting Hare Krishna he has pushed them very far away, all these desires. But actually these desires are very, very close by, as close as the mind. Bandha atmatmanastasya. So we don't have to waste words about this understanding of what to do with the senses. They must be controlled at all costs. In order for one to advance in spiritual life, this is our primary engagement, to control the senses. Tapasa brahmacharjena, samena damena. These are the first stages. Brahmacharya doesn't mean just those who are wearing saffron. Anyone who is engaged in this path of spiritual life, he must undergo this purificatory, reformatory process. He must. Without controlling the senses, it is not possible to make any advancement. Because the senses are simply these how can you say, unspecified temptations. Everyone has their own particular weakness, depending on his association, pious or impious. So these things are never far away, which is why it is so important to have a properly functioning Gurukula. Prabhupada knew how important. He personally laid the cornerstone. Yeah, many times people say, well, what is the value? So many mistakes have been made. That doesn't mean that the value has become less. It simply means that we have to learn from our mistakes. But the process, this training from an early age is so important. What to speak of any age. When one comes to the Krishna consciousness movement, whether he is 8 or 80, the process is the same. There's no difference. It's not that because I'm an old man, I don't have to go through any purification. If anything, I have to go through more purification. 80 years of accumulated bad habits. What do they say? You cannot teach an old dog new tricks. So Prabhupada was very keen to preach, especially to the college educated. And for this reason, he mounted this Radha Damodar Sankirtan, traveling Sankirtan party, TSKP. And their only engagement was to go from college campus to college campus. And every campus they stopped, they would catch 1 or 2 persons. Because there are so many living entities who are just waiting. They have all been, Srila Prabhupada even mentioned, and it is also described in the scripture, that the Senapati Bhakt, his commission by none other than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was to go to those places far away and to recover those souls who for that specific purpose were waiting. In common terminology, they are called sleeper cells. A sleeper cell is some terrorist group. They go into a country and they wait for years on end until they get the signal. And then they act. They look just like everybody else, but nobody knows who they are in actuality. But when the order comes, they immediately begin to carry out their activities, whatever they are. So, in this pastime of Lord Chaitanya, so many sleeper cells were placed all over the world. Otherwise, how in places like Kashadesh, China, and even in Iran, so many devotees, as soon as the preaching began, immediately devotees came. Immediately. Prabhupada said, I had to wait 1 year. But this 1 year is not so much time. He was going from this place to that place, from New Jersey, from Pennsylvania to upstate New York, to uptown Manhattan. There's Dr. Mishra. And then down to the Bowery. But this was all the plan of the Supreme Lord. And then Srila Prabhupada found himself where there was the maximum concentration of those souls who were just waiting to be awakened. But this controlling the senses, and those devotees who were coming, their senses were not controlled. Prabhupada had to make so many concessions in the beginning. But this is the expertise of the pure devotee, that he knows how to adjust things according to time and circumstances. Yes, we are not in that capacity to make any adjustments. For us, those adjustments are deviations, and deviation cannot stand. Even the slightest deviation, just like a railroad train. In India, the railroads are famous for many reasons, some good, some bad. But all these trains run on 2 tracks, and these tracks have to be perfectly straight, parallel. If there's even a slight deviation, there is derailment. The train comes down. So sometimes we think, oh, a little adjustment won't hurt. But that little adjustment may not be immediately seen. But gradually, it becomes wider and wider. So this is the danger. Why we have to stick closely to Srila Prabhupada's books. What to speak of Srila Prabhupada's books, this whole society was built on this premise. To serve the spiritual master, to serve the deity form, so that one becomes completely engaged. Prabhupada gave the example of a mailbox, this post box. In India, they are colored red color. And one knows, and it is clearly labeled, and it has a certain appearance. And if one puts his letter in that box, then he's fairly confident that it will reach its destination, because it is authorized. But if someone paints some box red color and makes some sign, this is post box, and you put your letter in that box, there will be no result. Somebody will steal your identity. Actually, they do these things. This is called skimming. In the Western countries where everybody uses card, such people fix some device to the machine so that when you put your card in, it reads your card and steals all the information and wirelessly transmits it to a person sitting in a car 20 feet away. And he's collecting all this information. So if 100 people use that machine that day, he can cheat 100 people. But they don't do, they just sell the information. So this is the analogy of using the wrong box to repose your bhakti. Prabhupada said one cannot make any advancement outside of this ISKCON society. If he thinks so, then he is living in a hallucination. Just like this fake fraud, what do they call in India? 420 aadmi. So you cannot become tricked. So whether you're tricked by some person or you're tricked by your own mind, The same trick is there. So you can say that your mind is also 420 admi. Always trying to trick. Do this, look at this nice, pretty figure, whether it's boy or girl, it doesn't matter. For woman, man is attraction. For man, woman is attraction. It is the same thing. So this attraction leads one to become more and more attached. And this, what is that verse, famous verse Prahlad Maharaj says in this chapter? Matirna Krishna Paratak Svatova Mito Pipadyeti Grahavratanam Adanta Gobir Vishyatam Tamisham Punak Punas Charvata Chavananam. All these things, they become chewing the chewed. Baba told us here in Vrindavan that you can go outside and see. This sugar cane wala, he's making juice, and this empty husk, this spent cane is put to the side. But some cow or some donkey or something will come, and again he will try to take up this already spent husk, and he will chew it. But there is nothing there. The only thing he will get is the labor for chewing this dry husk. So in the material world, all of these engagements of the senses, they can be had in any species of life, and they have been. Everyone has been in every species of life. And that enjoyment is there to one degree or another. Anamoy, pranamoy, all these things. For some living entity, just breathing, just eating, this is the extent of their sense enjoyment. So the human being, he thinks himself some advanced living entity because he can get enjoyment through so many facilities. He has maxed out his senses. They even have a word for it. They call it sensory overload. Sensory overload. So much data input one cannot process. But ultimately, everything from the material world is all useless. In IT and other circles, psychology, psychiatry, they have an acronym, GIGO. Does anybody know GIGO? No, GIGO means garbage in, garbage out. Young lady knows, she must be professional. Garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage in, you can only get garbage out. You cannot put in some good thing and out comes some special. If you have you want to make a cake and you take all rubbish things and you throw it in the pot and mix it, what will you get? You'll get a rubbish. So one has to only put in his mind Krishna. So that is why we're chanting every day, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is the only thing required. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, and his appearance is coming, there's nothing in the 14 worlds except the holy name. Nothing. This is his realization. So what can we hope to gain by trying to screw out some other meaning? That this Krishna consciousness is such and such. I have my idea, I have my opinion. What are the use of such things? Everything is here in Srila Prabhupada's books. But the first thing he's saying is one must control the senses, otherwise the mind gives no relief to appreciate the sublime teachings, of the Vedas, of the Acharyas. Otherwise you cannot have it. Everything will be questioned. The mind will constantly challenge. that this is not right, I don't believe this is wrong. Moga sammoga kamana moga jnana vicetasa. One's knowledge, one's intelligence becomes stolen by illusion. There's another thief. Moga sammoga kamana moga jnana vicetasa. So why I take such care when I go home, I lock up my laptop, my phone, my everything, very securely. Always we're worried, oh, some thief will come, some thief will come. But have we locked up our intelligence? Have we carefully guarded all of our spiritual assets? So what are we doing? How do we accomplish that? Is it by lock and key? We get some very big lock? What do we do? We have to chant and we have to hear. Because these two things are the special combination. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Prahlad Maharaj is also saying, he is our Acharya, he's our Mahajan. So these two things produce the third. And together, they are the iron box to protect our bhakti lata, bij. Nothing else can work. It is not by dressing very nicely or making some appearance or trying to impress someone by external anything. Our spiritual life can only progress if we are that fixed from those things. And what does it mean? I'm hearing, I'm chanting, I'm remembering. But what is the result? Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati yakinchana sabaya gunas tatra samasate suraha. One automatically develops all the good qualities of the demigods. Automatically. Prabhupada said nothing needs to be learned. You don't need to learn something to come to Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness itself is the learning process. Krishna will teach you. Sarvasya chaham riddhi sanivishtom matak smritya jnanam aponam cha. Nothing external required. Krishna is giving internally. Shishi Gaunitaya, Shishi Krishna Balaram, Shishi Radha Sama Sundas. Ki jai. So if we rely too much on our limited intelligence, thinking, oh, I have to read so many things. Yes, we have to read. Every day we're coming to Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad-Gita class, and one should read, no doubt. But if by this reading one is not impelled to act in devotional service, then what is the value of that reading? On the other hand, if one engages in spiritual life, automatically all the imports, Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Deve Tata Guru, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. So, if someone says you do this and automatically you'll get 10 lakhs, who will not do this? Everyone will jump. There'll be a line from here to Delhi. So many contests, you know, people are such naive. I won't say foolish. Some people are foolish. All the time they're carrying these devices and the device says, oh, enter now and win 10 lakhs. Or on your mobile phone, press now, text this, text that and win your chance for 10 lakh, 1 crore, 1 car, 1 house. And people are thinking, yes, I have a chance. So if you're thinking you have a chance, why not take the guaranteed result? The guaranteed result is that if you chant 16 rounds, follow these 4 regular principles, serve the spiritual master, you will go back to Godhead. This is 100%. 100%. What is the use of so many contests? And someone is thinking, well, somebody will win. Yes, someone will win, but What has he won? Another birth. And Mayapur Prabhupada said that Krishna is so kind, he can fulfill all your desires, even your material desires. Even your material desires. And we've seen. It says, but you will have to take another birth. And there will be a gap of millions of years before you can have another chance, another opportunity in this human form of life. So is that a good exchange? Will anyone take? You can enjoy like a king in this life. Some people will take, 100%. Even in this room, someone will say, yes, grant me this benediction. The Bhagavatam is filled with these things. So many people are trying to cheat death. So many people are trying to get wealthy. So many people are trying to get beautiful wife. So many people are trying to become immortal. And some benediction they're getting. But what is the result? Every time it ends with disaster. Every time. That is why we have to read this Bhagavatam and understand. These are not stories. This is not fiction. Don't think that these things are just some bedtime tales for small children. We have to be very clear. And that appreciation of who Srila Prabhupada is and what this ISKCON is, once you have that fixed in your mind, then all of your other activities become simplified. Not simple, simplified. Vyavasayatmaka buddhi ekeha kurunandana. We don't need this intelligence which is many-branched. We need to have this one-pointed attention, one-pointed focus. This word is used often, focus. They have focus groups, and they train everybody how to be focused. What is the use of this focus? The moth is also focused. He's focused on the light. And at night, you see, they're attracted to the flames. And they go rushing into the flame. That is his focus, to his death. So in the material world, everyone is focused by their senses. And they are rushing headlong into the jaws, the wide open jaws of death. Just like the moth going into the fire. What is the use of his focus? So we have to pay careful attention all around, all those good examples, all those devotees who have been studying and practicing, who have made those contributions which have added to the foundation of the society. Prabhupada gave us this actually Prabhupada gave us everything complete. We just don't see it carefully. Everything is actually complete. When Prabhupada left, he said he was concerned that 50% of his mission was unfulfilled. But unfulfilled in what sense? If 50% of the mission was successful, then the other 50% is guaranteed. Bhakti Churu Maharaj wrote that one time in his Vyas Puja offering. He had that realization. That everything is complete. We simply have to take the credit for it by engaging in the service. Not thinking that I have to become some big person, some Maharaj, some Mahajan, something. Just have to become simple devotee. Engage in simple service. Krishna will gradually give you opportunity according to your capacity, according to your dedication, your determination. He will put you in positions just suitable for you to serve Him in the capacity that he wants. Nimitta matram bhavasavya sacham. It was like Arjuna. How qualified was he? There was no person who had greater attributes in the martial skills. Well, maybe one person. But he could do anything. Inconceivable. But yet, he was challenged because of his uncontrolled senses in the form of friends and family. These attachments, they can only come about because of this concept of friends, family, or enemies, as Prahlad Maharaj said. And so that was his weakness. And so this weakness was able to bring this great warrior to the point of inaction, incapacity. Just see. So we have to be that much careful. Just become an instrument. Don't worry about what kind of instrument. Someone is saying, no, I cannot do this. I cannot do this devotional service. We're asking every day, my dear Lord, my dear energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. But then when the service comes, the voice says, no, I cannot do. I cannot do. For some excuse or another, it doesn't matter what that excuse. Excuse is excuse. So everyone is clear about the necessity to control the senses at every moment. Not just on Saturdays or Sundays or 9 to 5 or no. Every second the senses must be controlled. Maya is constantly giving us the test. After all, she is the teacher, as Srila Prabhupada explained analogously. Maya is the teacher. And these temptations are the test. Will you pass the test or not? Hopefully we must pass the test. So we have a tight schedule, so we must end the class. And we have one, I'm going to ask for a question, but one question was already put forward. The question is, when we are in association, bhakti, or process of Krishna consciousness, is like simple. But when we go home in vacation, then how to maintain ourselves and gain proper determination to control mind and senses. Yes, first of all, this is our home. So when we go someplace else, we're going into Maya. We call it home. I also have a place where I live, and it is thousands of kilometers away, but it is not home. But family is there, so many things are there, and depending on the level of attachment, one can call it a home. So the key is to become detached. We see that Srila Prabhupada gave us very clear in his own life. And if anyone has read this Vrindavan Bhajan, we see Prabhupada's mood. It is very compelling. I encourage everyone to read this poem, Vrindavan Bhajan, written while he was in Radha Damodar. So he describes that after a lifetime of engagement with family, friends, now all that is left is a list of names. Mother, father, wife, children. Where are they now? Where have they gone? Only a list of names. If you go to any cemetery, you will see a list of names. That's all. in one cemetery, maybe 1 million years of life, 100 years, 50 years, 70 years, all dead, all having lived so much time. What could be done with that million years? For a devotee, this is like to a materialist gold. I can use this time in Krishna consciousness. The more time I have, the more I can serve my spiritual master in Krishna. So when I go, according to this question, so when I go out of Vrindavan and I have to go to some other situation, then actually I'm not going anyplace, I'm simply changing my location. Prabhupada said, wherever you go, the mind goes with you. So if my mind is Krishna conscious, then wherever I go, my place where I am is a temple. It doesn't matter if it's a hotel or a tent or the open air. Wherever I am, that is my place of worship. I need to remember Krishna. You know, the story of the Prabhupada gives the story of the Brahmana who was so poor. He wanted to worship Krishna, but he had no means. So then he heard that one can worship Krishna even in his mind and get the same result. Same result. So he thought, oh, this is very nice. So then he sat down in his place, which previously was just like any other place, but now it has become like Vaikuntha. He was offering the Lord sumptuous bhoga, all delicate preparations, properly prepared in the finest ghee, in the finest gold, and everything given. And the shringar, and everything so nice. One can try to imagine. Even in our family situations, sometimes we don't have everything. But we're worshiping Giriraj, and we're asking him please to accept these what little offerings we can. And if it is done sincerely, patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakti prachiti. That's all. So anyone can give leaf, flower, fruit, or water. It doesn't matter whether it's this home or vacation home or any home. But the Brahmana, he offered some sweet rice. And sweet rice is best served cold. Milk is best served hot, but sweet rice is best served cold. So he went to test the sweet rice, whether it was ready to offer. And he stuck his finger in, and immediately his meditation broke. His finger was burned. And his finger was actually burned. And he was thinking, how could this be? How could this be? But Vishnu in Vaikuntha was observing all this. And he was having a good laugh. And then he sent the Vaikuntha Viman to collect the Brahmana. Because he had become successful in his total immersion. So this can be done any place. It doesn't have to take any particular form. One can be preaching in any condition. It doesn't require adjustment of time, place, and circumstances. Wherever one finds himself, in whatever circumstances, then he has to speak about Krishna. That is all. And if he speaks about Krishna, that act itself, that desire to become an instrument, the boldness required to go out of one's comfort zone and to reach out and give someone Krishna in the form of a book. This is the highest service. Everything is contained within that. All the ingredients and the sacrificial fire and the results, everything is there. one activity. And when one is distributing books, generally one feels himself most unqualified. And so therefore he is praying to Krishna, my dear Lord, please allow me to become an instrument and distribute this knowledge which brings this conditioned soul back to your lotus feet. Please allow them to take a book. That's all. So by this prayer, one is completely purified. And Krishna is pleased. And this movement will continue on more and more. Any other questions? Bhakta Paul and then Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the wonderful class. I wanted to make a point about the verse where Hiranyakashipu mentions about his son being an enemy. So here is, sometimes even in our movement, there are issues such as maybe somebody is trying to advise the devotee that, because you can see that, there are some discrepancies in terms of service or the way a person acts or conducts himself, And that person is completely inimical to the person who is trying to advise them. And you will do anything to destroy the reputation of that person by, giving bad propaganda. Or could you please corroborate on that point?
Such activities, there's one consideration. When we come to Krishna consciousness, we should come, what is that verse? Nirvara sarvabhuteshu. He should become in a condition free from previous sinful activities and free from the contamination of previous sinful activities and free from envy related to his relationships to others. This is a very important point. But sometimes we come with extra baggage. And in Krishna consciousness, just like we see sometimes if a person is overweight, he has a very difficult time to move upstairs. What to speak of climbing a ladder. So before he can do these things comfortably, first he has to lose what is not required, some excess. So don't come to Krishna consciousness with anything unnecessary. Any of this conditioning, some prejudice, some bias. What is the first lesson Prabhupada is giving us here? That we are not these bodies. Aham brahmasmi. But why? Why is that? Because based on the bodily concept of life, one has so many unwanted things, these anarthas. And it is very difficult to make advancement in spiritual life, carrying this extra weight. So he has to discard it before coming or as quickly as possible. But if one still maintains this contamination, because these things cannot happen unless one thinks he's the body. He cannot think of friends and enemies. First he must think that I have a position. Like Hiranyakashipu. And he's trying to teach it to Prahlad. By diplomacy, one has to make all these considerations. For what purpose? For some political purpose, not for some spiritual purpose. So this ISKCON society should be free from all politics. what is the need for politics? If it's based on a bodily concept of life, then it is unnecessary, unwanted. And it should be rejected completely. Totally rejected. We only have one where our intelligence is not many-branched. That is the key. It is fixed on serving the spiritual master in Krishna. And if everyone is in that consciousness, then what is the consideration of friend or enemy? Everyone is my friend who's helping to spread this movement. The only enemy are those who are opposed to this movement. Prabhupada said there are enemies. Those who are opposed to this movement, they are enemies. So that should be clear. But within this movement, there are no enemies, unless he is acting contrary to the wishes of the spiritual master. That has to be seen by one's activities. But very carefully, one should cultivate his creeper. And if he feels that there is some contamination, he should approach to someone who he trusts, who he respects, and he should inquire submissively that, Prabhu, can you help me to understand the situation? And that person will give him, hopefully, the benefit of his experience, because we are gathering so much experience year after year, more and more knowledge is there. They call it knowledge base. We have thousands of years of knowledge in Krishna consciousness now. All the devotees who came before us. Like the boat which transports us across, that knowledge remains for us to utilize to cross to the other side of this ocean of nescience. All of our acharyas, all of our god brothers, all of our god sisters, so much information, devotional information has been kept very carefully for us. One only has to ask, and he will receive. What is that verse? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Has to be some humility, some submissiveness, not by challenging. By challenging, one thinks, what is the point of asking? My god brother used to say, if you have a question, it means you don't have an answer. Is that clear? If you have a question, it means you don't have an answer. So you should be ready to listen. Otherwise, don't ask the question. Do you think you know everything? There are some people like that. Any other questions? Prabhu, you had a question? Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Now sometimes it seems that we are listening to the whatever you are saying, but just like we see the body, we are present, our body is present, but our mind is working somewhere else. We say that we are in a power class, but our mind is wandering and we could not listen properly what was saying. So this effect is sometimes coming in our mind. Can you explain?
But that, again, that is that same verse. One's intelligence. So one is using his mind for to concentrate on activities which are pleasing to him. So that undercurrent, just like there's a saying, English saying, that the undercurrent, not the surface, what you see on the surface, this hides the turbulence underneath. So even if one thinks that the water is very peaceful, if one goes in, immediately he's captured by some undercurrent and he's swept away. So we have to be very much aware of our situation. It is called situational awareness. And people are trained very carefully to be observant. Where am I? To keep his consciousness in the present and to be aware of his surroundings. Where am I? I am in the temple, I am in Vrindavan, I am in the Bhagavatam class, I am with the devotees, and I am hearing. But yes, his mind can take him someplace. The speed of the mind is the fastest of any concept that we know. Faster than the speed of light is the speed of mind. So how quickly our mind can go from Krishna consciousness back into the gutter, the nala of the material world. So we have to be just appreciate where I am and who I am. I am a servant. If one has that consideration, I am the servant of the spiritual master. I am nothing but the servant of the spiritual master. Then what will he do with his mind? Where will it go? How will it take him someplace? The mind is trying so many tricks. Look at this, look at that, listen this, listen that. But gradually the mind comes under the control of the self. When the intelligence is utilized to carefully manage its affairs. Just like a small child, he may be the wealthiest person in the world, but he cannot access anything because he is too young. So they appoint one guardian, and he acts as an executor. So ultimately, we are all like this simple child in the beginning. And Krishna and the spiritual master, they are protecting us. But if we don't listen to them, if we complain and we whine and we cry, then gradually the guardian says, okay, if that is what you want, so be it. And then again you are caught up in Maya because you didn't listen to Krishna. So don't let your mind become your worst enemy. Let it always be your best friend. And let it constantly work in such a way to remember Krishna. And that you can engage in such a way even when you don't want to. This is sometimes key. To accept the challenge. To do what seems to be difficult. Selflessly. This is the key. Selflessly. Then one gains Krishna's favor. Any other questions? Quick questions? Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.